Welcome to Surviving the Side Hustle podcast, the place where expert-based business owners learn how to build momentum, avoid burnout, and create sustainable success on their own terms. I'm your host, Rob Tracz, strength and conditioning specialist turned founder and CEO of Prime Performance Coaching, the personal performance strategy firm for high-achieving business owners and operators. I partner with driven entrepreneurs to implement the Prime Performance process, an awareness-based operating system that's helped me and countless solopreneurs and small business owners evolve from just being high performers on the edge of burnout to prime performers building sustainable success. The impact of Prime Performance process has led me here, where I'll show you how to get unstuck and design your own Prime Performance life without sacrificing your health, relationships, or sanity. So whether you're hustling after hours or scaling your passion project, today and here you're going to get real stories, science-backed strategies, and practical frameworks to help you excel every step of your journey. It's time. Let's get intentional, build momentum, and become prime performers together. We'll get started just after this message. If you're an ambitious business owner or side hustler who's ready for a breakthrough, tired of spinning your wheels, looking to slide past burnout and build real momentum, I'd love to invite you to book a free Prime Performance strategy session with me or one of our strategists. This is your chance to get personalized insight on what's been holding you back and get a clear path to move forward. No fluff, just actionable strategy. So if you're interested, visit survivingthesidehustle.com/free call to request your spot now. Again, that's survivingthesidehustle.com/free call. Looking forward to helping you become a prime performer. What's going on, and welcome back to another Friday recap of Surviving the Side Hustle. As usual, I would love to kick it off by asking you something. And this week's question is, what if everything you've been taught about running a business is actually the problem? Like, what if the hustle, the top-down leadership, the money is the goal mindset, and the firing people for mistakes, pushing harder until people break, what if the whole operating system is the thing that's keeping you stuck at the level that you're at? Because here's the truth. The entrepreneurs building businesses that actually last aren't grinding harder than everyone else. They're operating from a completely different model. And most of us were never even told the other model existed. And that's what I want to dive into, because this week's guest has been quietly proving this whole concept for 43 years. And what he's built is going to challenge how you think about every part of your business or your projects even. So this week on Surviving the Side Hustle, I sat down with Glenn Bostock. Glenn is the founder and CEO of Snapcab, and his story is one of the most unusual entrepreneurial journeys that I've heard and had on this show in quite some time. Glenn started his career in the early 1980s as a cabinet maker. He couldn't really read as well as a kid because of several learning disabilities. He got tested mercilessly in school, found his confidence in his dad's wood shop in the basement, then went to college for fine woodworking, started his own shop at 23 years old with his newlywed wife and their dog, and spent his early years refinishing furniture and fixing broken pieces because nobody would pay him for the high-end work yet. Fast forward to today, Snapcab has 144 employees across the United States and Canada. They build elevator interiors and office pods for companies like Starbucks and Microsoft. They do over $30 million in annual revenue, and they grew at 30% a year for over a decade. But here's what makes Glenn's story matter for you who's listening. He didn't build Snapcab using the playbook every business book sells to you. He built it on 3 values that became the foundation of his upcoming book called A Human Business, which are be kind, be authentic, and be useful. And the way that he runs the company is so different from the standard model that It took me half the conversation to fully wrap my head around what he was even saying. So this week's episode is for any entrepreneur who's starting to suspect that the way you've been taught to build a business is actually limiting how big it can actually become. So if you haven't yet, go back, check out the guest interview. And when you listen to it again for a second time, this is the lens I want you to listen through. See, Glenn said something on the mic that'll stick with you. He said the purpose of building a business is not to make money for the owner. The purpose of a business is to create value for customers, and the money is just an indicator of whether you're actually doing that. Now, let me say that again. Money isn't the goal. Money is the feedback. It's how you know if the thing you're doing is actually useful. Now, think about how most entrepreneurs run their businesses. We obsess over revenue, we chase top-line numbers, we measure success by what hits the bank, and in doing that, we accidentally turn the customer into a means to an end, a transaction designed to extract value and not deliver it. But Glenn flipped that. Be useful, solve a real problem, add real value, and let the money come as a natural consequence of doing that at scale. The whole guest interview episode is about what becomes possible when you stop building a business for yourself and start building one for the people it actually serves. So the first takeaway I want to give you guys from the guest interview is start in the neighborhood of what you love, not on top of it. Glenn dropped one of the cleanest pieces of business advice I'd ever heard, and I want to make sure that you don't miss it. He said when he started his cabinet shop at 23, nobody would pay him to do the high-end, fine woodworking that he actually loved to do. He didn't have a reputation. He didn't have a portfolio. He had a barn, a dog, a newlywed wife. So instead of holding out for the dream work, he started refinishing furniture and fixing broken pieces. Drenched in chemicals, scrubbing old finishes, doing the kind of work that nobody else wanted. And here's the line. Get into business in the neighborhood of something that you love. Not exactly the thing, but near it. See, that hit me and stuck with me because so many entrepreneurs I coach are stuck in the trap where they refuse to start until they can do the exact thing that they want to do, the exact way that they want to do it, with the exact client that they dream about. And while they're waiting to start the perfect business, the people who actually built something started ugly and grew into something pretty. Glenn started the refinishing furniture. That's not woodworking glamour. That's chemical soaked, back-breaking work. But it got him in the neighborhood of what he really loved. It taught him the business of cabinet making, the bookkeeping, the customer service, the pricing, the operations, without him having to risk the high-end work that he wasn't ready yet for. And then over time, he grew into the work he actually wanted to do. The refinishing led to small cabinets. The small cabinets led to elevator interiors. And the elevator interiors led to the patented system that caught Otis Elevator's attention. The Otis contract led to Snapcab, and Snapcab led to 144 employees and $30 million a year. But none of it happens if Glenn doesn't start in the neighborhood. Here's what I want you to hear if you've been sitting on a business idea waiting for the perfect launch moment. Stop waiting. Start in the neighborhood. The crummy job nobody else wants. The unsexy client, the small offer, the work that gets you the reps and revenue while you figure out who you actually are as an operator. The people who get good at business aren't the ones with the best ideas. They're the ones who get their hands dirty long enough to learn the rhythm of having customers, collecting money, solving problems, and showing up the next day. And in Prime Performance Coaching, part of TAP's coaching, we've got a whole framework behind this, but the core idea is that the journey isn't a straight line. You don't start at point A and arrive at point B. You start near point A and you take imperfect road. You learn what you couldn't have learned any other way, and the path actually emerges as you walk it. Most entrepreneurs are paralyzed because they're trying to map the entire route before taking the first turn. The map gets drawn by driving. So please, start in the neighborhood of what you love, not on top of it. The road to dream businesses runs directly through the unglamorous work that you've been avoiding, and the entrepreneurs who skip that work never actually arrive. And this is so true to me as well because I started my coaching career in strength and conditioning. And although I still love strength and conditioning and being in the gym, I just knew that it wasn't specifically what I wanted to be doing forever. So without going through that grind, without going through the burnout, I would have never landed in the speaking and coaching world that I'm in nowadays. So I believe it to be so true. And the second takeaway lesson that I want for you guys is the transformation from technician to leader is the bottleneck of every small business. This is part of the episode that I think every entrepreneur listening needs to hear. Glenn was clear. If he had stayed a technician, if he had stayed the guy with a hammer building cabinets, his business would have topped out maybe 1 or 2 employees and a couple $100,000 in revenue forever. But he made a transformation. And the transformation wasn't about getting better at woodworking. It was about realizing that his first love, the deepest love, the one underneath the surface love, wasn't actually woodworking at all. It was building, creating, solving problems. And eventually building a community of people who could do something together that he could never do alone. Here's that trap that most entrepreneurs are going to fall into. They become world-class at their craft. They get really, really good at something. And then they assume the path forward is to do more of the thing. More clients, more sessions, more cabinets, more design work, more coaching calls. And they hit a wall they cannot punch through because the ceiling on doing the thing yourself is set by the hours in your day and the energy in your body. And no amount of hustle changes that math. Glenn realized he had to shift from being the technician, the guy doing all the work, to being the guy who builds the environment where the work gets done by other people. And that's a completely different skill set. Recruiting, culture building, vision casting, delegation, coaching, holding people accountable, designing systems that don't depend on him. See, he didn't get good at those skills overnight. He hired 4 different leaders over 15 years before he figured out what kind of leader he actually needed to build. And one of the most honest moments in the conversation with Glenn was when he admitted that he had to embrace his weaknesses. He had to publicly say to his team, hey, I'm great at product design and creative problem solving. The list of what I'm not great at is way longer than what the things I am good at. I need help. That's the move most entrepreneurs are too afraid and never make. We hide our weaknesses because we think being a good leader means having all the answers. But the entrepreneurs who actually scale figure out that the opposite is true. Being a good leader means being honest enough about what you're bad at that the right people can step in and cover it. When you try to be good at everything, you stay small. When you get honest about what you're not good at, you build a team that can be good at everything together. And to tie it back to TAPS Coaching's prime performance process, you guys have probably heard me talking about the team triangle and the social skills. There's the frameworks behind it, but the core idea is exactly what Glenn lived. You can't scale a business that depends on you being the best at every single function. You scale by getting clear-eyed about what you're built for, building a team around the gaps, and creating an environment where the right people can do the work better than you could have done it yourself. Again, that's not weakness, that's the actual job of a leader. Takeaway number 3 for you guys is the gold is in the problems. This was the moment of the entire episode for me, and I'm going to be quoting it for a long time. Glenn shared something his mentor told him. A Japanese manufacturing consultant named Ritsuyu Shingo, the son of a guy who developed the Toyota production system. Ritsuyu told Glenn this: gold is in the problems. If you can identify a problem and solve it, it's like finding money on the street. Most entrepreneurs do the opposite. We see a problem and we get frustrated. We complain, we get defensive, we blame people. We try to push the problem out of sight so we can get back to doing the work. Glenn flipped it completely at Snapcab. He built a system they call the Gemba boards, 12 or 13 of them throughout the entire facility, where every time something goes wrong, an employee writes it on a post-it note and slaps it on the board. The leadership team walks the facility every single day and reads the boards. They go to the actual place where the work happens, see the problems, and treat each problem like a gift. And here's the part that's going to blow your mind. They reward employees for reporting the mistakes. Carnival tickets, stack them up At company meetings, whoever has the most tickets gets a spin on a prize wheel for extra vacation days or dinner with their family. They literally pay people to find the problems in their business. And they do this because every problem surfaced is an opportunity to build a system that prevents that problem from ever happening again. And every system improvement makes the company more scalable, more resilient, more profitable. Hide problems and you hide growth. Surface problems and then you compound the growth. Now compare this to how most small businesses run. The owner finds a mistake and explodes. The employee learns to hide mistakes next time. Other people see what happens and learn the same lesson. Don't tell the boss when something's wrong. And slowly, quietly, the entire company becomes structurally incapable of getting better because the information that could fix it is being buried out of fear. Glenn made the analogy explicit on our episode. He said most businesses can't feel the pebble in their shoe. If they could, they would take it out. But the fear-based culture has numbed them to their own dysfunction. The reason your business isn't growing isn't because you don't have enough wins. It's because you don't have a system for surfacing your losses fast enough to learn from them. Can't outpace anything that you cannot see. And in business, the things that slow you down most aren't the big problems. They're the small problems that nobody surfaces because the culture punishes the messenger. But build a culture where the messenger gets rewarded and suddenly you can see the whole field. And that changes everything. Remember, the gold is in the problems. If your team is afraid to tell you what's broken, you're not running a business, you're just running blind. Build a system that pays people to find what's not working. That's not a cost. That's the highest ROI investment most companies never make. And finally, biggest takeaway for you guys is build it like a body, not a machine. This last one might be the deepest reframe for the entire guest interview. Glenn doesn't think about his business as a machine like most people do. He thinks about it as a body. And the analogy is so good, I want you to walk through this entire thing with me. He said that the leadership team is like the head, the brain that thinks, plans, sees the big picture. Production is the hands. That's where the actual work gets done. Operations is the torso, the core that holds everything together. The entire company is connected like a nervous system, with information flowing in every direction. When he walks the Gemba boards every morning, he said it's the same sensation in his fingertips when he touches something hot. The information about what's happening at the edge of the company gets back to the brain fast because the system is designed for it. Most companies are top-down hierarchies. Information has to climb the ladder to reach the leadership, which means by the time the head finds out about the problem, the hand has already been burned. And here's the biggest thing I want you to remember. Glenn said most businesses can't feel the pebble in their shoe. But worse, many businesses have cancer growing inside of them. People working on things that are out of alignment with where the company is going. And because the leadership can't sense it, the misalignment grows unchecked until it threatens the entire organism. Now think about that as a leader of your own business and life. Even if your business is just you and a contractor or maybe two other people, where are the disconnections in your system? What are you not feeling that you should be feeling? Where is the information from the edge of your business not getting back to your head fast enough to act on? And here's the beautiful part of the whole entire body metaphor. The body is self-healing. You don't have to tell your immune system to fight a virus. You don't have to remind your skin to scab over a cut. The design of the system handles it. Glenn's whole thesis is that a well-designed company should be the same, a self-healing system, where problems get surfaced, addressed, and converted into growth automatically because the culture is designed to do that work. That's the difference between a business that depends on its founder forever and a business that can outlive its founder. One is a machine that breaks when the operator leaves. The other is a body that keeps growing because it's built to live on its own. This is honestly the closest external parallel I've heard to what I've been teaching inside my coaching for years now. The body is the system. The system is the business. And when you stop trying to dominate the business and start trying to design the business like a body, like an ecosystem, like a community, you unlock a level of growth that pure willpower can't reach. And overall, the biggest idea here is the version of business most of us were sold, like the top-down, money first, hide the mistakes, push harder, isn't just unkind. It's inefficient. It builds smaller companies. It produces worse cultures. It burns out the founder. It punishes the truth tellers. It hides the very information that could make the business great. There's a different operating system. Glenn's been running it for 43 years and built a $30 million company on it. Be kind, be authentic, be useful. Treat the business like a body, not a machine. Reward people for surfacing mistakes. Hire for love of work and community. And stop chasing the money that start chasing the value. And watch the money show up as the byproduct. It's not soft. It's not naive. It's the most strategically advanced way to run a business that almost nobody is teaching. And Glenn's book, A Human Business, is officially being released on June 16th through Forbes Books. And if you're an entrepreneur trying to scale your company without losing the soul of it, this is a book that you're going to want to grab. And you can get a free chapter right now at his website, glennbostock.com. And that's Glenn with 2 N's and BOSTOC.com. Glenn, if you're listening to this recap, thank you again for coming on, man. The wisdom in the conversation was purely a gift. I appreciate you so much. And I want to leave you with the last thing that Glenn said when I asked him what entrepreneurs in the early stages should focus on most. He said, be aware of what lights you up and what wakes you up in the morning. Find what you love. You're probably not going to do it perfectly at the beginning, but keep it in mind. And in the meantime, find the crummy, terrible job that nobody else wants to do, but that has a real market need. Then add value. Keep adding value. Be useful and keep being useful long enough for the business that has no choice but to grow. And the simplest business strategy I've ever heard is be so useful for so long that people can't ignore you. That's it, man. That's the whole game. No funnels, no hacks, no secrets. Just being useful every day in the neighborhood of what you love for the people who need what you can actually do. The entrepreneurs who win aren't the loudest. They're the most useful over the longest stretch of time. So if you're listening to this, go be that. And I'll catch you guys next Tuesday with a new guest interview. And until then, stay sharp, stay aligned, and keep surviving the side hustle. Thank you. Peace, peace, peace. That's all for today's episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. If you found value here, please don't forget to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening from. And please create a shared success by helping us share this episode with someone who you think would benefit from today's conversation. And finally, don't forget to connect with us at survivingthesidehustle.com and give us a follow on socials so that we can take part in following along in your entrepreneurial journey. Until next time, remember, success doesn't require a complete sacrifice, just strategy, momentum, and the right support.